He went home to Texas and played against Towson, and they went back and forth between Nunes and Kyle Morris. Now I think Matt Nunes is going to be the starting goalie.
Immediately a stick break, and Syracuse sets up. The Orange are in the orange, Virginia in the white, and the Cuse turns it over on the opening possession.
And that's a sweep across the top at left-handed, gives Virginia some real ability to attack defenses from the top.
Yeah, Coach Tiffany was telling us he's the left-handed version of Schutz.
They really are. Schutz is predominantly a right-hander, and so you've got that good combination.
Really efficient shooter at 44%. 3 games this season with at least 6 points. John Mullen, one of the best in the country, number 4 in the land, 67% on faceoffs, and it leads to an Owen Hiltz banger.
Well, you talk about 2 players that have such good skills. Johnny Mullen is able to push the ball forward. That is such critical for the defense, obviously having to decide between picking up the faceoff man or sliding. And as I said, you give it to Owen Hiltz from about 12 to 15 yards, the best left-handed shooter in college lacrosse.
He's got a cannon.
Not much a goalie can do except hope it hits him or he misses.
Hiltz and Spallina both picking up their 200th career point on the same play in last week's win over Colgate. Hiltz has been with this program for a long time. He's a redshirt senior.
Now we have Greenspan taking that face off inside 10 and on the crease.
Junior from Baltimore now with 25 on the season.
Another violation.
Well, this bodes well for UVA. And John Mullen and the Syracuse Fogos have been fantastic this season.
Well,
since that day in '97.
And Casey Powell was the first player to wear number 22 after the graduation of Coach Gary Gate.
Virginia very successful on faceoffs early here, and they've been using a couple of different guys, Ghobriel and Greenspan. Very surprising.
Well, if you're scripting Virginia's first 7.5 minutes, it's been perfect.
Shooting. He's been asked to be a playmaker as well, but obviously that's a part of his game, to shoot it.
That's a tough role for Jake Spallina to be playing against a #1 attackman. And another island in upstate New York that Syracuse was recruiting successfully in the Mid-Atlantic in Baltimore and Washington. So he gave the credit for the rebirth to Pat Marsh.
Yeah, he got guys like Luke Roa, Billy Dwan, Riley Figueres from the Maryland, D.C. area. And then Canada, too, trying to get that going again. Finn Thompson and Owen Hiltz, some of those guys. Shot, score! Right out of the face-off, Syracuse shows off its strength, and it's Mullen. Well, that's more like it.
Yeah. That's the second time. This is the second time that John Mullen has pushed the ball forward, gotten a clean win. First time he passed off to Owen Hiltz. The second time he takes it himself and gets a big goal for Syracuse. And Corey, you can't understate the importance of that Jimmy McCool save at the end of the first quarter.
So that's 2 straight now for the Cuse. Mullen now has 2 goals on the season, had a goal against Utah. He's had some excellent games on the face-off dot this season. 28 for 31 in, believe it or not, a loss to Harvard. He was 14 for 15 against Manhattan. Not as
up hard up the pipe. He's able to just go ahead and get to the top side. And we always talk about Syracuse creativity, and he certainly has it.
Spallina 3rd in the country with 6 points per game, only behind C.J. Kirst of Cornell, Riley Sullivan of Lafayette.
Well, certainly Kurtz and Spallina have to be the top 2 candidates right now in the early Tewaaraton side scoring team, and we saw that with Johnny Hackett scoring off the crease.
Well, Hackett only had 2 goals on the season coming in. Lars Tiffany said fans might be wondering, why is he a first-line midfielder? That's why.
Well, speed and...
Oh, the rough stuff. Drew Angelo for Syracuse on that face-off, not Mullen. And it's the freshman Angelo who is trotting off here. Virginia should be going man up.
And the downside is that you can see Anthony Ghobriel.
14 right over the hole. 20 seconds. 30 seconds.
Now they're checking on Anthony Ghobriel, who drew the push, but took took a hard fall.
Here from Charlottesville with Doug Tarrant, Corey Spector on hand. Thanks so much for joining us. Shots pretty close, 24-23 in favor of Virginia in the first half. Both goalies making 8 saves. And the face-off's very tight. Virginia surprisingly in front, 6-5.
And that was a function of those early violations of the first quarter. And this start of the half, Greenspan taking the face-off. We saw Anthony Ghobriel get pushed right at the end of the half. Wonder if that's meant he's maybe hurt again.
Yeah, Ghobriel, a question mark misnomer out there that we're playing loose because of all the off-ball movement, the behind-the-back stuff, all that special stuff. But Pat March, the offensive coordinator, Coach Gates saying, keeps us structured, does a great job dissecting the defense, anticipating where teams will slide from. We have patterns to every single offense.
Well, he was very adamant about saying we might be free, and sometimes the way we release the ball or the way we move the ball, but it's all part of the plan. I think Coach Gates certainly wanted to make it known that he felt that it should have been a goal and a foul.
5th on the season for Hoddle. This is where Syracuse really starts to get going here with their face-off man Mullen, but they couldn't control it.
Well, Johnny Mullen tried to make a flip, and the ball didn't cross the line, so the attacker wasn't able to pick it up.
Thomas Snyder, freshman for the Cuse, on defense, 33.
As I said, of a face dodge from strong hand back to the strong hand.
Virginia wins the draw this time. Well, Lars Tiffany was saying if we get dominated on face-offs, which UVA has not today, well, the Cavaliers would need to force some turnovers against a Syracuse team that is #1 in the country in fewest turnovers per game.
Yeah, Johnny Mullen wins the
here.
Well, patience, longer possessions, not depending on any one player to score the goals. And you know, Virginia's got some young people on defense, and they're taking advantage of it.
Virginia has it here, needing a goal.
That's, you know, being the passer and the scorer, as opposed to last year where he played with 2 great All-Americans.
Well, that's not a good sign for UVA. Anthony Ghobriel, who was practicing this week, Coach Lars Tiffany was unsure if he'd be ready to go. He started this game as the Fogo, but there you see him in the sling.
Well, and it goes back to that push that he had over, you know, on that corner. Virginia did draw a foul, but you could just tell by the way he came off the field that, you know, there was an injury there. And so now it's up to Greenspan, and obviously that's one of those face-off men that's got to step up. It's his opportunity.
And Greenspan has been fantastic today. He is 8 for 11. He was only 10 for 34 in his previous 5, and he wins another. Didn't have this on my bingo card today.
No, well, you got to remember he's a transfer from Notre Dame and faced off in practice some outstanding face-off men for Kevin Carnes' practice. So
had 66 points. His brother Brendan, who is committed to Virginia, scored a goal yesterday, the game winner for McDonough in overtime against St. Paul's.
Yeah, and Brendan has certainly been everything at the McDonough school that McKay was, to 2 of the top #1 recruits on inside lacrosse. So Virginia fortunate to be able to bring both those players to Charlottesville.
And that goal from Brendan yesterday, the assist, Bogue Hahn committed to Syracuse.
Yeah. And we're talking about a dad and mom who were both All-American Hall of Fame lacrosse players. So, you know, the blood runs deep in that family.
All right, the seesaw continues here. Virginia with...
And a big goal for Anderson. And he's, as a freshman, is not shown any freshman nerves today.
No, certainly not. And give the assist to Michael Grace, first of his Division I career. D3 RIT transfer, 2-time D3 national champ.
And Johnny Mullen doesn't win it clean, but he keeps the ball on the ground, and Sandin was able to pick it up off the wing.
Good athletic background too. Grandpa William was on Navy's 1960 national championship team. Dad Mark was a kicker here at UVA.
And you know, he's from a great school in the Virginia Beach, Norfolk Academy. Not, you know, maybe not at the level of some of the schools in Baltimore, New York, but he has earned his spot. He did have some injuries, and he's now been that third mid.
Syracuse and Virginia. Bit of a surprise today. Syracuse, a team that normally dominates at the Faceoff X. John Mullen, it has not been his normal day for the Cuse.
Well, I think part of it is that Virginia has given John Mullen 3 face-off men to compete against, and you know, we know that the Fogo position is a very specialized position, and one of the top recruits in every team's class is the Fogo. And you know, Virginia's done a nice job of either tying him up and getting wing play, or winning in some cases at outright. And so we'll see. Again, Johnny Mullen has taken, you know, every face-off, and we're in the 4th quarter, and there's been, you know, over some 20-some face-offs. So we'll see. But he could change the game very quickly.
And meanwhile, Andrew Greenspan, in the absence of Anthony Ghobriel, has been fantastic in this game at 10 for 13. Came into today winning 50% of his face-offs on the season.
And if the Ghobriel, obviously the injury continues, he will have to continue to be the number 1. And he did what he needed to do, is keep the ball on the ground and give Ben Ware a chance to pick it up.
And if you're just joining us, we saw Ghobriel earlier in a sling.
Said their success in D.C., Maryland has made a difference.
Virginia secures another face-off. Freshman Luke Hublitz, who's been used as a wing all season long.
10-10.
He scored the game-winning goal against Virginia last season up at the Dome. Ties the game right now as we just hit the midway point of Q4. Joey Spallina, meanwhile, records his first point of the game and his first against UVA in 2 years.
And of all the many face-offs we had, you know, a spot.
Well, the word is around Syracuse that Hiltz has added to his game this year, that it's not just about the outside shot, but because the athleticism has improved, now you have to think about different things defending him. Virginia going for goal. Save McCool.
Chismar all the way to the crease, gets the shot off, and now Virginia's going to take their second timeout.
So with 1:56 to go, Lars Tiffany and company will talk it over. They led 10-9 at that point. 3 straight for Syracuse, English, and a pair from Hiltz. And now Virginia needs face-off wins, and Mullen stepping up when it matters most.
And I think he's won the last 3, and that's been the difference in terms of the possessions.
And now Syracuse tries to salt off the remaining time. Meeting number 43 all-time.